So I definitely love the mythology. I love the interplay between the characters, but there's one particular one that I do not like in this story. Hey everyone, welcome to my series Before You Read, where I review books, TV shows, comic books, and the like, where I talk about what I like, what I didn't like, and if I recommend it or not. Today we are talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Search, which is the second graphic novel in the series of ongoing comics after the Last Airbender series. If you didn't see my previous review, it's somewhere around here floating around my head. Go ahead and click it if you want to go in order. But first, let's talk about what I did like. Again, it's like coming straight from the TV show and having the characters in your head. A particular highlight for me in this story was Sokka. I think Sokka was really on point with a lot of his jokes and just a lot of his whimsy and just showing what he's like with Katara, because there's a big theme about family and what you tolerate from a family member, because of course the main plot line of this story is between Zuko and Azula and their search for their mother Ursa. And all of that I liked so much. And what I especially liked in this comic book or this graphic novel series, a three-parter, was the mythology. And I'm always into anytime that the Avatar universe goes into the spirit realm or talks about old folklore type stuff, and we get into that kind of a thing, I usually like it, and this is no exception. We get a lot of new creatures and ancient spirits in this one. We also get some insight into how one of these ancient spirits ties into an older ancient spirit that we know about, which again, not going to be talking about spoilers here, but if you do want to have that discussion in a spoiler review, I am doing that in my After You Read The Last Airbender: The Search. And also on the subject of Azula and the Zuko stuff, again, Zuko doesn't quite steal the show in the same way he did in the first graphic novel series for me, but still is very compelling in what he has to deal with in his life. He is such a good person, but he's surrounded by bad people in his life that it's hard for him to just figure out what he can do. And especially when he sees, you know, Sokka, Katara, or just Aang, and how they're kind of like a unit and a family unit, and everything works out for them. He doesn't have that same, you know, sort of thing going for him. You know, he lost his mother, his sister hates him, his father basically ostracized him. So to see him struggle with that and want to rekindle his relationship with his remaining family because he doesn't have his mother anymore, I thought was very compelling. And again, anytime Zuko has any conflict or anything like that, I usually really enjoy it. Now moving on to what I didn't like. So I had a big issue with two characters, but one in particular. So I don't think this is a spoiler, but they, you know, the plot line of the story is that they're searching for Zuko's mother, Ursa, and we get a lot of flashbacks with Ursa, and we get answers to what happened to her, why she was banished, why she's been away for so long, why it is that she never came back to look for Zuko, when we've seen in flashbacks that, you know, she had love for her son. And the answer that is given, I don't buy. Either I don't buy and it's something, an issue I have with the writing, or if it's something that was intentional, then I really do not like Ursa. Now, I'm not going to describe what that is because, of course, we are in non-spoiler territory right now. But when we talk about it in spoilers, I have a lot to discuss about that. I really did not like Ursa as a character, and some of her decisions. Some of the lore around her was cool and everything, like the reason she was able to remain banished and the reason for that. But the fact that she did it and the reason that she did felt a little bit rushed. It felt a little bit convoluted and contrived. And I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. Also, in terms of her relationship with Azula, throughout this whole entire series, Azula is having a hard time coping with you know, not having love from her mother and all that. And then at the end, it's not really resolved. And I was hoping that it would be, and that we would get, and I was, you know, as the comics were going along, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm starting to understand Azula a little bit. I'm starting to understand where she's coming from. I feel a little bit bad that she's crazy and that she's going through this, you know, episode. But ultimately, at the end, it doesn't amount to much, at least for me. It didn't work for me. So yeah, those are two things I really did not like. It was character-based mostly, but everything else was pretty cool. So now to my recommendation. Would I recommend this story? I would, obviously, to Avatar fans. Especially if you're a new fan, I don't think this is a good comic book to read, because there's a lot of bits, especially with the flashback stuff, where if you're not familiar with the show, I don't see how you can follow it very well or even understand the significance of it. So I don't recommend it to any non-Airbender fans, even if you're just a Legend of Korra fan and you've never really, you know, interacted with Airbender, which I don't know how you would do that, but I would not recommend that to you. For fans, I would say go in with caution and know that there might be some problematic stuff with Ursa. But if you're really into the Avatar lore, especially with the spirits and some of like the old-timey stories that they have in that kind of aspect, definitely a dope one to get into. It expands on the lore and expands on a certain character and their relationship with someone else. And of course, the interplay between the characters is fantastic. The quips between Sokka and Katara, Aang coming in, Zuko and Azula. There was actually some really good stuff with Zuko and Azula, with her being, you know, the crazy person and rude person she is, and then Zuko trying to like tame her and keep her, you know, reined in a little bit. All that stuff works great. All the character voices are on point. That is really great. So if you're okay with possibly just being disappointed as I was with Ursa, Zuko's mom, then you can go into this, I think, and have a pretty good time with it. Ultimately, like on my Goodreads account, I gave this overall a 3.5 stars, officially a 4-star on my Goodreads, but 3.5 because of the detraction of some of that stuff that I was talking about and the part that I didn't like. But that's it. Let me know what you guys think about the comics. If you've read the comics, and if you have, let me know what you thought about the comic in the comments below. And as always, peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.